Like, I actually hate Anthony with a passion. Like, I don't, like, this is chapter 4, 5. I don't think, realistically, you can come back from this. Hey, it's Liberty, and today I'm making a follow-up video to a video that I made 2 years ago now, which was reviewing Bridgerton Season 1. So I'm coming back to not only review Bridgerton Season 2, the series, but talk a little bit about this book and what I think about it and what I think about the adaptation itself. I think there was something really freeing about it being a voiceover, and so I could really talk about my feelings. So I am passing over to VoiceOver Me to deal with the Series 2 review, and it'll be back to me for the actual book review itself. I have so many opinions about both the show and the book, so look forward to it. I will say that I did the voiceover section review before I had read the book, so you will notice that some of my opinions shift. Also, same thing as last time, there will be massive spoilers. This is completely spoilery. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and do subscribe if you would like to. I make videos all about books, history, personality, culture, etc. So do check those out. I am going to pass over to VoiceOver Me now. 2 years ago, I made a video about how I didn't like Bridgerton and I thought it was objectively bad. I recently rewatched that video and wow, I really hated that show. So since then, obviously 2 more seasons of the show have come out and my feelings could not be more different about each season. I've also read the first 2 books and I have thoughts. Anyway, I have many opinions about season 2 and how, in my opinion, it really turned the show around. For the show, I'm going to be talking about the main leads, the plot, production, the diversity elements in this season. So I'm going to get straight into it. So in terms of the plot of the whole series, I think the writers did pretty well. Kate and Anthony's love story slow burned across the 8 episodes quite well. Enemies to lovers, they didn't realise their feelings. By the time they did, it was too late. I've seen her coma in episode 8 be criticised, but Anthony's crisis point, as established by his backstory, is for him to almost lose Kate and put him back in that headspace of losing his father, which is what caused him to be the way that he is. So it was necessary. I've also seen people criticise the way that they both let it get to the point where Edwina and Anthony are at the altar, but hello, have we met these characters? These are 2 of the most stubborn type A people we've met in this show. They're both control freaks. For my personality people, they are both Enneagram 1 with a 2 wing, and they are both extroverted thinking dominant. Anthony is an ESTJ and Kate is an ENTJ. Their whole relationship is their dominant extroverted thinking and inferior introverted feeling busting up against each other. I think their whole arc was perfect. Do I think Kate could have been less prickly to Lady Danbury? Yes, but this is very high stakes for her, and she was convinced she knew exactly what she was doing, which she didn't, and we needed to see that. We sort of needed to see her have that realization. She's gripping so tight to the reins. I have to include this criticism because I should have made this before season 3 came out, really, but I was really annoyed that we skipped straight from the Featherington ball to 6 months after the wedding. Now, I get it because we get to see them happy in season 3, so we will see more of them, but at the time I was like, no Daisy wedding? Rude. The other storylines were quite balanced. It still felt like Kate and Anthony's story. They didn't fully go off the rails. And yes, that was shade. I'm also including Violet and Lady Danbury within sort of the main storyline as well. Benedict's storyline is also able to happen because of Anthony, and it reflects the way that Anthony's obsession with duty isn't something that he forces on anyone else. It's something he very much only punishes himself with, and it doesn't take up that much time this season. Again, like the whole Lady Whistledown storyline, encompassing Eloise, Penn, Theo, the Queen, Madame Delacroix, is something that's been established from season 1. In terms of society, the publication is influencing how the characters are seen. It affects the decision-making of the whole cast of characters. It's very much not out of place. The Featherington side of things, obviously Penelope is Lady Whistledown. The Penelope and Colin parts are, pure setup for their story. And also, to a certain extent, start to involve the Bridgertons. The Featheringtons are also very much a foil for the Bridgertons. They are in these books and the show for a reason. They are very much to act as contrast to the Bridgertons. You have one mother obsessed with finding love matches and one mother who is only too painfully aware of the realities of life and is obsessed with finding her children good matches in terms of security. They have very opposite ways of seeing the world and the marriage mart. The Featheringtons sort of struggle with finding their happiness, and despite financial hardship, is very much to hold up a mirror up to the audience to show how stupid Anthony is being. Honestly, he has no good reason not to marry for love. the Bridgertons don't struggle financially like the Featheringtons do. He is a man and very much able to do whatever he wants in the world, and he's a Viscount compared to with the 3 Featherington girls. Do I think we could have had less of them to make it feel a bit more like Kate and Anthony's story? Yes. But I do like the Featheringtons, and I feel like they are probably not going to be sticking around much after season 3, apart from Penelope and maybe Portia, if Portia is living with them, so it's good to have more of them while we can. The Mondridge's club is important to the plot, as is Mr. Mondridge, who warns Colin about Jack Featherington, and it's the key to that storyline, but I think we didn't need so much of it. So in terms of plot and storylines, it was a good balance, but it could have been a little bit better if I'm being pedantic. I think there is a problem with Bridgerton that starts in season 2, but it gets way worse in season 3, is that the writers feel the need to pad out people into full storylines when they don't need to. This show is supposed to be an almost anthology series, but with recurring characters, because we're talking about the same family, and instead of staying true to that and having people pop in and out when it serves the story, they give over whole storylines to them. It's like they are scared that they won't come back unless they give them more scenes. It's for this reason that while I love the fact that Daphne was back, I didn't care that she was dukeless. She's there for insight into Anthony's childhood, and as someone who knows him very well, their scenes are sort of the key. I don't know what the Duke would have added. That's very much, her function in the story, and I think it was really well done. I do think we did not need to see that much of Jack Featherington or Mr. Mondridge. So many of those scenes could be cut. It makes sense for the Bridgertons to have storylines to set them up for their own stories, or to bring out recurring themes across the series, or, for extra world building. You can schedule the filming in a way that allows for people to not be wasting so much time on one project, and they can go off and do other things. So, while it wasn't a massive issue in season 2, I'm going to have so much to say about it in the video that I make on season 3, because it was a train wreck in that regard, season 3. I'm not afraid to say it. Eloise, welcome to the family of women who are trying to make themselves out in a man's world, aren't perfect about it, so you get hated on by both men and women. She does not hate men, she hates the patriarchy, and I will go into more detail about this in my review of The Tenant of Welfare Hall, which is coming, like a proper one. But women in the Regency era had basically no rights. You'd be pissed off and hella annoying about it too. She's seeing all the women in her life doing their best to work within the system, to put themselves in a good position, and she's screaming, this is a shitty system, why are you accepting it? Ahead of her time, I can picture Eloise in the 1850s as this middle-aged woman helping to form the women's movement and hosting book clubs and discussion groups and being an activist. But it is important to have her there because the women's movement did not come from nowhere in the 1850s. There were women screaming about how unfair the system was in the Regency era. Eloise talks about reading Mary Wollstonecraft, for example, but there were hundreds of women writing about women's rights in the Georgian period. It is such a shame that the blue stockings had faded by the Regency era because, again, I would have loved to have seen Eloise going and being like, yeah, I'm all for education of women and discussing literature and art, but when are we pulling down the patriarchy? So I want to talk about the main leads now. As we know, each season of Bridgerton has its own main lead couple, and we follow their love story through the season. Season 2, we've got the eldest Bridgerton, Anthony, the Viscount Bridgerton. From a writing perspective, I feel like Kate and Anthony are perfect. The man with the list gets hit over the head with love for someone whose flaws he sees because they mirror his own, and a woman who was never intending on finding love for herself, only for her sister, falls for the man her sister wants. Kate is such a good person that she doesn't want to ruin her sister's happiness and is like, I will go back to India and nurse my broken heart while you guys live a happy life together. And Anthony loves Kate so damn much, he is not willing to blow all of their lives up by breaking things off until we reach the crisis point where they get found out. Chef's kiss, if you get it, you get it. As for their chemistry, it blows Daphne and the Duke out of the water. These two are a slow burn enemies to lovers, and boy do they slow burn. I criticised Daphne and the Duke for consummating their marriage all over the place, and we get the opposite with these two. It is all tension until it boils over in one sex scene in episode 7. Their relationship was developed so well over the course of the series that it makes complete sense why they let themselves get into the mess they end up in. Also, they are the twin flame couple of the series so far. They are very similar. As I was saying earlier, they have 2 of the 4 of the same cognitive functions in the same position, so they literally share the same strengths and weaknesses, and that causes a lot of the conflict and attraction between them. Speaking of attraction, it's such a natural chemistry between them, and I think that speaks a lot to the friendship and the trust between the actors who, if they are who they present to the world, then, and I, have no reason to think they aren't at the moment, they are complete gems and utterly adorable. This is Bridgerton, so Anthony is our protagonist, and his arc and backstory and development are given the attention that it needs to help further his love story. We go back in time to see Anthony's trauma, which is his father's death, right in front of him from a bee sting, that is causing him to see the world the way that he does and why he acts the way that he does. That was very well done, and we get the information just when we need it. The relationship between Anthony and his mother, Violet, that we saw in season 1 and into season 2 also plays into this. Their conflict is rooted in the way that he had to step up after his father's death and how it has shaped him into the adult that he is today. Terrified of falling in love because he saw what losing that, true love did to his mother and how it affected not just her but the whole family when his father died. It explains his unlikability in season 1. He's kind of Jon Snow-like. They both kind of make themselves miserable and annoying with their duty and oaths to avoid getting hurt or rejected or basically feeling very much of anything. Both very highly wound men. Similarly with Kate, while we don't see it in flashbacks, many conversations between the Sharmas get to the heart of Kate's position within the family, the way that, like Anthony, she sacrifices her personal desires to do right by her family, and she takes that responsibility on herself rather than communicating properly with her family. Both Anthony and Kate have personal growth associated with openly communicating with their mother and sibling about their true feelings, and that parallel is what makes their story so good. They are also both, parentified older siblings, stepping up to take on responsibilities. I will forever be annoyed that we were robbed of a proper wedding. Kate would have looked like a goddess in a Western Indian fusion gown. I just know it, but yeah, they both gain love. Anthony gains a strong partner whom he loves and whom can share his responsibilities and worries with. And more importantly, he can express his love fully without worry and be loved for exactly who he is. He can do his duty happily, so happily that it doesn't even feel like a duty. Kate gets to put herself first for once and gain a partner who loves her without conditions, despite it being Regency era and she's 26 and past it by their standards. And being Viscountess gives her a chance to use her considerable talents and brains. And after spending years depending on the goodwill of the people around her, she gets to live a life without having to worry about how she and her family are going to survive. I love these two. Top tier romance. I'm going to be honest, in my diversity section, Kate being Indian is the only reason I watched the second series, because I hated season 1. If you watch my video essay, you can attest to that. But I'm half Indian and I was not going to miss out on seeing an Indian actress be a romantic lead in one of the biggest shows in the world. I love that they make Kate Indian. It was great to see Indian culture in this show. I remember when I was younger, my mum used to put oil in my hair. It was such a ritual and a lovely bonding moment. So it was really great to see these little moments in the show. It's so weird. My parents are a white man and an Indian woman, but I feel I don't remember growing up seeing romances like that on screen. When I say that in the UK, I am a part of only 2.7% of the population who are mixed. Having parents of 2 ethnicities, I'm, clicking that mixed white and Asian button when I do the census. I was obsessed with the fact that I got to see a romance like this. Also, when I say I watched season 2 with my mum, yes, I did have to hide under a blanket for that scene, even though I am a fully grown adult. What can I say? But it was just so great to see, and hopefully this gets people curious about the British Empire and the British in India, and people go away and do their own research about it. I'm so happy that Bridgerton moved away from the angle they took on race in season 1. It's odd because of the relationship between Britain and India. It's not outside the realm of possibility that this romance would occur. There was frequent marriages in India between British colonisers and Indian people. It was only really with the disbandment of the East India Company in the 1850s where the British Raj became to be a discernible thing, and the divisions between colonised and coloniser became more stark and intermarriage was frowned on. So with Edwina coming from a rich family, the Sheffields, and being sponsored by Lady Danbury, it's not crazy. There were rich Indians wandering around in high society. We know this from contemporary accounts. So it's weird. It's simultaneously getting more accurate and also more romantic fantasy at the same time because they popped off with the extras in a good way, obviously. But in all the promo for it, they really learned their lesson from season 1, I think. And Bridgerton is now completely romantic fantasy. We're not thinking too much about race in that way, which is actually really nice. That's all I have to say about diversity. Again, they did it really well. I love Simone and Ashley. I love all of them. On to production, and I'm going to start with the music. I think they did really well with the modern covers this season. The You Oughta Know really stood out because it didn't stand out, if that makes sense. It walked the line quite well between being recognisable and yet still being suitable for the scene. I really liked what they did with Stay Away also. That's another highlight. It worked perfectly for the montage. The message, the original by Nirvana, is what I imagine the inside of Anthony's head is like all the time. But again, not too obvious. The only one which got me was Wrecking Ball because, oh God, it's a shame. It was the crowning moment musically of all the covers. But it's just too recognisable. I see why they didn't want to let go of it. They choreographed the whole scene with that song in mind, but sometimes you just have to know when to abandon something. It's just way too Miley, and it takes you out for a second, kind of like another song in season 3, but I'll get there. I also love the score. I'm a sucker for a good score, and there were some fantastic themes in there. I particularly loved the music at the Sharma Bridgerton Not Ball, the soundtrack to Eloise and Pen's fight. There's just like some amazing string moments, which I love. Costume time. Bridgerton really understands colour seasons. Simone Ashley is 100% a winter. She's definitely got a cool undertone. I've seen her typed as bright winter and deep winter, so who knows specifically, but she has her gorgeous moments in darker colours, but also in the lighter colours of the winter palette, as Bridgerton is very light, pastel-y palette, which winters do not generally thrive in. But oh my God, they dressed her so well, accounting for her palette. She didn't get as many outfits as Daphne, but some of my personal favourites are her hunting outfit, the dress she wears in episode 7, the dress she meets the Queen in. I love the little coat she wears in episode 1. Even when they put her in the orange dress that didn't suit her at all, it made sense for the plot because this is as they're preparing Edwina to marry the man that Kate loves. So she should not look her best. She should look out of place. And it matches the Haldie. Something that blew my mind, yes, pun intended, that I didn't notice until I saw someone point it out on social media is that when Kate first meets Anthony, she is wearing blue, but a blue that is in her own palette, which kind of tells us from the get-go that these two are endgame. And Edwina does not wear blue once in the whole season. Kate and Anthony both have very dark colour palette throughout this season, which obviously contrasts the overall lightness of the palette of Bridgerton in general. Edwina's is very light in comparison. Visual storytelling, baby. And again, like when they come back from their honeymoon, their clothes they have the same details. Something I love this season was Benedict's vests really popped off this season. It's contrasting with Anthony's very somber colour palette and really shines a light on their differences in personality and position within the family. And yeah, it's these details that make the production so good. Also, Lady Danbury, this season they really solidified her position as, HBIC, other than the Queen, obviously. And she was always in these jewel tones, lots of velvet. She stands out, again, compared to the pastels of the Bridgertons and the vivid hues of the Featheringtons. I also want to talk about the Pall Mall scenes quickly because the Easter eggs and little moments are giving us clues about the upcoming seasons. In the first Pall Mall scene, we get Edwina picking Bridgerton blue, showing how much, she wants to be a part of that family. But it is Kate who picks Anthony's traditional mallet. Eloise picks a yellow one, which matches the interior of a certain house and the vest of a certain man who we will see her interact closely with in her book. I don't know why I'm being cagey. Her book is literally called To Sir Philip with Love. Colin's mallet is also yellow, Featherington yellow. Benedict fails to get through the third arch, and instead it's Colin that gets his ball through, indicating he's going to be season 3. And immediately after that, Eloise goes through the 5th arch, which she's probably going to be 5. We know now she's going to be 5. I'm obsessed with the way that Lady Danbury was cheering on Eloise so much. So yeah, those were my feelings about season 2 of Bridgerton. I thought Anthony and Kate were really well constructed as characters. I really enjoyed their own personal arcs and also their romance. I thought the production of the show was exceptional in season 1 in terms of the production side of things. And they really sort of continued on with that. If I was to rate this show out of 10, it would be like 8.5. So, I really enjoyed it. It hit a lot of marks for me, obviously, clearly. Thank you, Voice Over Me. So I'm back. And, I tabbed rather a lot. I know that red and pink look really similar, but I don't know. I haven't got the hands for it. But there is a point at which the red starts to appear. And yes, red is I hate this. So I'm actually I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but there are places that I prefer the book. They both have their strengths. I think in terms of the overall plot on its own, not thinking about any of the other books or series, I think this book is actually better than season 2. What happens in the book is, the Sharma sisters are the Sheffield sisters, and they are poor, so they only have enough money really to do one social season. So they sort of wait for the prime moment. Kate is 21, Edwina is 17. Edwina's still the shining star, but obviously this book is basically, we are in the heads of Kate and Anthony. So we know a lot of their feelings and a lot of their, insecurities and deep emotions. And Kate really does not think she's beautiful in any way compared to Edwina. She, people just ignore her when Edwina is in the room, despite the fact that she's older. Very similarly, the sisters have so much love and loyalty. Edwina, at the start of the book, she's made an announcement that she will only marry if she gets her sister's approval. Again, it's quite similar. Anthony initially pursues Edwina. Kate and Anthony, however, have a steamy kiss in London before they go to the country. The bee scene does happen, but in the book, Portia, Mary, and Violet, they walk into the garden and see Anthony attempting to suck the venom out somewhere around here, let's just say. He does also have like his panic attack as well. So they're forced to get married in 2 weeks, and then they get married. Anthony basically very much comes into this marriage telling Kate that there'll be friendship, there'll be lust, but there will not be love. Do not expect love. They sort of both have their own personal issues, and they overcome that with the help of each other. And there is an accident. It's different again in the book. Anthony just thinks that Kate is dead, and then they live happily ever after because he confesses his love. I do understand why in the show they couldn't have two forced marriages in a row, but this one is so much better. Having read the first 2 books, they should have kept the forced marriage for this one. Ugh, I'm so bitter that they didn't. It's genuinely so much better, and it's better for Anthony's story arc. But hey, again, Edwina knows the whole time. It's so obvious to everyone that these two are in love. So, that's something I could have done without in the show, is Edwina being treated so poorly and being so hurt. I think that given Anthony's, all of his issues stem from marriage and children, it kind of makes more sense that we would see his marriage. So yeah, it's weird that the show made it so much about the journey and less about the actual marriage, but I also want to say that I love Book Kate with all of my heart. She's so intelligent, she's stubborn, and she's hard to please, but she's deeply insecure because she's constantly being compared to her sister. Like, the thing that makes her instantly dislike Anthony is the fact that he says, oh, you're as lovely as your sister. And she's like, well, he's a liar because that can't be true. Kate has her own childhood, wound that she needs to heal. It's to do with her hatred and fear of storms. It's way worse in the books than it is in the show. She is full on paralyzed by fear. It's because her mother died during this huge storm. And essentially she literally saw her take her last breath as thunder and lightning hit a tree right outside the house. So it, as a 3-year-old, that's a pretty insane thing to experience. And, she doesn't remember this until the very end of the book. So that's her thing that she has to work through. Again, it's another example of twin flame energy, because they both have these wounds relating to in Kate's case, I'll get onto that. She watched her mother die in front of her. For Anthony, it's his father dying. They're very different wounds, and they, both have these absences that have changed them in different ways. So on to Anthony. Oh, Anthony. I hate Book Anthony. Book Anthony sucks. I've read 2 of these books now, and I will die on the hill that Julia Quinn does not know how to write love interests that are not trash. In the first book, the Duke Simon was just so angry all the time, and Anthony is not much different. He's so mean. I think Julia Quinn thinks that violence equals passion. Men wanting to hurt women, I think she thinks that's sexy, but it's just the equivalent of, it's the adult equivalent of the people that say, oh, he's pulling your hair on the playground. Oh, he just likes you. No. Another thing is that Anthony does decide that he likes Edwina, but in the book, it's very much I can't be bothered to find somebody else to marry, so I'm sticking with Edwina. He says that several times. It's, yeah. Again, in the book and in the show, Anthony's dad dies from a bee sting that, he doesn't want to marry for love. That is his great trauma, but it's a lot more deep in the book. Eloise is the one that finds her father dead and watches it happen in the books. And Anthony just comes home and he is dead. But also, his uncle had died the year before of, similarly, out of nowhere. And due to the love that he had for his father, he worshipped him, he put him on a pedestal. He genuinely thinks that he can't outlive his father in the book. So he's got this kind of existential sense of his own mortality. Like, he genuinely thinks he's going to die at 39 because his father did, and he can't do any better in life than him. And so he's fully resigned to the fact that he's going to, that's why he doesn't want to marry for love, because he doesn't want to put his wife through that pain. And also, like, his children are going to be a certain age when he dies, which is why he's waited so long to get married, because, the younger they are, the easier it is to deal with a dead father, apparently. Again, why his duty is so important to him. I think they missed a massive trick in the show not having that, because I feel like that was so fundamental to his arc. In terms of Anthony and Kate's relationship, when they meet, he's attracted to her confidence and wit immediately. But something about this Miss Catherine Sheffield sparked his temper and made him positively itch to do battle with her. And win. That went without saying. The idea of him winning interactions with her is something that, it comes up again. They dance. He tells her he's going to marry Edwina. He's gripping her very tightly. He leaves her literally scared. He grips her very tightly. It makes me very uncomfortable. Next day, he buys flowers for Edwina and Kate and Mary. Obviously, they are Kate's favourite flowers. It's the first time Kate has ever been given flowers. At one point, this is an entirely unchaperoned conversation that these two are having, Kate and Anthony, in the drawing room. And at one point, he says, "You do something to me, Miss Sheffield." It's abundantly clear to the reader he's very attracted, and they are very attracted to each other already. This whole incident that takes place next in chapter 4, I would have loved to have seen in the show. Basically, Edwina is out with Lord Burbrook, who is really nice and an idiot in the books. And so Anthony take Newton. Newton loves Anthony straight away and is very obedient to him. And I quite like that version of it. But anyway, so Mary basically sends Anthony off. Again, everyone is setting these two up in the books just constantly throughout. Already in this chapter, Anthony is aching for her. There's this whole sequence where, like, she wants to feel the sun on her face and he, like, helps her take her bonnet off. It's a whole thing. Anyway, like, Newton runs away and they have to haul ass to find him. Literally, they are both running. Propriety be damned. And he literally bowls over Edwina and sends her into the Serpentine. Not only does Anthony blame Kate for this, but Anthony goes for her throat, is a literal quote. And he's like, "I'm going to kill you." And then he leaves her there while he takes Edwina home. But obviously this means Edwina is sick and can't go to the musical event that the Bridgertons are having. So Mary and Kate go on their own. Mary and Kate. Kate is obviously attempting to hide from Anthony at this point. So she hides in a room that she thinks is a library. Turns out Anthony's study. So she's hiding under the desk. Again, this is something that she hides under desks multiple times. He comes in with the opera singer, in order to get some alone time, and he sees her hiding. Their eyes met. He saw hers widen with panic and fright. Good, he thought savagely. She should be frightened. He was going to tan her bloody hide until her hide was bloody well bloody. He steps on her hand. He kicks her in the stomach. He took not a little pleasure in kicking her while she was down. That is a direct quote again. He then locks her in the room. They have this, like, steamy kiss. And then he has the cheek to say, "Oh, I didn't mean to hurt you, scare you, but not hurt you." Like, I actually hate Anthony with a passion. Like, this is chapter 4, 5. I don't think realistically you can come back from this as a reader seeing the main character of a romance book doing this. I think it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like the thing I said about how he likes to win, like Kate's in a monologue right before they properly have this kiss. It's like, damn, he's won. This kiss is steamy. In Anthony's point of view, it's all, she feels right. She's the finest woman in England. Then he's so mean to her. He starts talking about how he's still going to marry her sister. Like, it's... Then he has the cheek to say he fought the most ridiculous impulse to leap forward and grab the key from the carpet, to get down on one knee and hand it to her, to apologise for his conduct and beg for forgiveness. Like hell. And this is after, like, he sees The word disdain is used as the thing that he, the emotion that he sees in her eyes. At least he understands that a few pages later, a gentleman did not treat a lady as he had Kate Sheffield and expect her continued good favour. Damn right. Lady Bridgerton, invites the Sheffields down to the country to Aubrey Hall, and Kate is resolved to be nice and to, but it's killing her, and I don't blame her. The Pall Mall scene, again, is big in the books. Colin, Kate, Anthony, Daphne, Simon, and Edwina are all playing. Again, we were robbed this whole show. We were robbed of the Kate and Colin banter. These two are top tier. When Kate first meets Colin and Anthony at a ball, it's just fantastic. And this whole Pall Mall game, they are just, because Kate and Colin are walking down to the Pall Mall field together, and they have these cute little funny interactions. Like Kate's constantly asking for the time because Anthony's gone to get Edwina, and she's freaking out that he's ravishing her or something. But similarly, it goes down in the book as in the show. She picks the mallet of death. Edwina picks blue, Bridgerton blue. She wants to be part of the family. Colin takes yellow. Anthony's left with the pink. God, these two are so clueless. They say out loud in front of their siblings, "What are you going to do to me?" she asked. He leaned forward devilishly. "What am I not going to do to you?" might be a more appropriate question. Edwina has to step in at that point. It's my turn. In the book, Kate is deemed to have won the game of Pall Mall and Anthony to have lost it because she sinks his ball into the lake, which was a whole thing that had happened the previous summer, which is why there were only 6 players, because it has to be an even number. I thought I should ignore Anthony saying it was humiliating to be bested by a female, especially her. But Book Anthony still sucks. There was a cute little moment where, they both say to each other, "I'm not such a terrible person, on the same page, except Anthony very much is. So chapter 11, Anthony's completely smitten. He knows which sister he likes, and yet he's still trying to marry Edwina, very much like the show. Though I'll give it to him, kissing Kate on the bare wrist between her gloved hand and her sleeve. Nice move, Bridgerton. And there is a very gallant moment, which I'll talk about later. Kate very much declares to Edwina, he's a hero. Obviously, the famous lines that we all know have come directly from the book. And then there was Kate Sheffield, the bane of his existence and the object of his desires, all at once. But you know what? I will give Anthony credit, because on the same page, he does say something which is incredibly cool. He says, how could he not admire one who clung so steadfastly to her convictions? The first big moment for Anthony happens like in the show, where Anthony finds Kate in the library freaking out because of the storm. But in the book, Kate is properly having a panic attack, and she's again under a desk. And this time he joins her and soothes her, kisses her palm. I still don't like you. They're opening up about their parents' deaths. They decide to be friends. Then the bee incident happens, and they're forced to get married. We've gone from "I will kill you" to Anthony held himself still for several seconds, thinking he might like to murder all those men and women who had compared her to Edwina and found her lacking. Kate truly had no idea that she might be attractive and desirable in her own right. Good for you, but I still don't like you. I don't know what Anthony expected, though, when he goes over to Kate and says, I will respect you and see you as a friend and also sleep with you, but I won't love you. And then there's some light touching. I'm glad at least that after Daphne, Mary and Kate have this scene where they properly talk about, consummating marriages and what that's all about. But after they're forced to get married, probably the worst thing in this book is she's freaking out a little bit. She's like, look, this has all gone quite fast. Do you mind if we postpone the consummation for a week? And he starts talking about how he's, she is denying him his rights, and I don't care that he's in love with her. I don't care that she falls in love with him. I don't care that they end up happy. Though I have to say, Anthony is he's so delulu. After a couple weeks of a very happy marriage, it's odd, because he's resolved that he's not going to fall in love with her, but he must know that what he's doing, everything that he's doing, is going to make her fall in love with him. The forehead kisses, all of this stuff, Unfortunately, there is a thunderstorm and Kate is having night terrors, and Anthony, after soothing her and stuff, they go to Mary and, they talk all about her mother. Kate kind of reveals, I have the same sense of mortality as you do. And Anthony finally realizes he's fallen in love with his wife and freaks out and runs away. After he leaves, we do get like the saddest quote of the book, though. She says, "But if she was destined to be alone, even with a husband at her side, then by God, she'd be alone and strong." Not gonna lie, I kind of love that. Good for her. Eloise sends over a note. Anthony has been at Bridgerton house. She goes over, they fight. It's a conversation with his brothers the next day that really kind of solidifies like that he's being an idiot and that he loves her. He needs to go to tell her right now. So he goes home only to find her gone with Edwina and Edwina's suitor. So he goes on horseback and he literally watches as the carriage that they're all in crashes and he thinks that Kate is dead. He pulls her out of the wreckage after like confessing his love to what he thinks is his dead wife. But she just breaks her leg. Unlike in the show, in the book, Anthony's fussing over her, no end. And they confess their love. And the epilogue is Anthony's 39th birthday. And he has lived. And, it's them and their life. So overall, like, I don't mind the story beats in general. I hate book Anthony and I love book Kate. So this was a really weird read for me. Look, obviously this book isn't the best written book in the world. I had some issues with a lot of it, obviously. Did I sail through it? Also, yes. So I would probably rate this 3.5 overall. Considering I think I gave the first book 2, that's quite a leap. In terms of how good of an adaptation it was, I'd say they captured the spirit of the book. They made changes that they didn't need to make, and I don't know why. I understand it's hard to adapt a book where a lot of this is going on in their inner monologues. There's not really anyone either one of them can confide in, really, apart from maybe Anthony has his brothers, but there's no one for Kate to really share her feelings with and to do that character development in her own head that she's doing in the book. I will say that I think they lost some of Kate's likability in the show. Like, obviously, Simone Ashley is amazing and acted the hell out of this, and I still love her in the show. Like, she's amazing. Kate Sheffield and Kate Sharma are both amazing, but I love Kate Sheffield. And like, if you had given Simone Ashley Kate Sheffield, she would have freaking knocked it out of the park. And it kind of annoys me that they made some of those changes. And on that note, I'm so glad that they did not give us a lot of book Anthony. Again, it's like they really toned down the men for the show. And yeah, I think that says a lot about Julia Quinn's writing. Again, like, they didn't need to have Edwina involved in this love triangle. I'm kind of annoyed they did that, not gonna lie. I did like the fact that while they haven't managed to obviously directly adapt it, they paid homage to Anthony's writing to Kate in terms of like how their whole interactions like start and end in the show. I never thought I'd say this, but I agree with the people who say that they've given show Benedict but Colin's personality. Colin has so much riz, and not in a season 3 way. He's so cheeky and charming. Like I was saying, him and Kate have so much banter. Eloise develops a great relationship with both sisters in the show. She's the same age as Edwina. We get some of her relationship with Kate in the show, but Eloise gets a bit busy, as we know. Edwina is also much feistier in the book. When Anthony gives her unhelpful advice at Pall Mall, she says something like, "I never would have figured that out," because he's like, "Just hit it through the hoop." He makes it clear she would love to marry a scholar, and the suitor that she has is an archaeologist, which, like, great taste, girl. Also, like, I wish Penelope had more of her moment in terms of like her relationship with Kate and Anthony. Kate loves Lady Whistledown, and she makes friends with Penelope, and she drops the line, "I think you'd be smashing in green," which is like, yellow plus blue equals green. Look at me, all delulu. Penelope loses 2 stone prior to book 2. She's like, "Oh, I lost puppy fat," or whatever. And there is a scene with the two of them that I really, really wish could have been in the show, and it would have been fantastic. Penelope and Kate are going into dinner together at Aubrey Hall. Cressida Cowper does her traditional coming over and bullying Penelope. But not only does Kate stand up for Penelope, but Anthony, whose job it is as the like highest ranking man, he should be escorting in to dinner the highest ranking woman. He comes over and takes Penelope and escorts her into dinner. He saves her from humiliation, and he says in like loud enough for Kate and Cressida to hear, "I do hate a bully, don't you?" I think that would have translated on screen really, really well. Yeah. So I think, sadly, overall, me reading this made me kind of think less favourably of the series. I didn't know what I was missing out on. It's gone down, I think, my rating of the show, maybe from an 8.5 to a 7. But the book, again, made me feel weird because I like some things. There was potential, clearly, but it's never fully realised. And I hate that. Again, like such a great love interest protagonist in Kate. The plot was plotting. Anthony ruined it. And the writing and dialogue was not giving, as the kids say. So, you know, yeah, 3.5 stars. I just kind of wanted to go with the flow and picked out some quotes here and there, but I'm sure there was more that I could have talked about, but I feel like this video is already insanely long. So yeah, that was my feelings about Bridgerton season 2 and The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. I have a bone to pick with Julia Quinn generally, but like my feelings about her pretty much boils down to this. She knows how to write to keep people engaged, clearly. Even I have to admit I sped through this book, but I cannot get behind a lot of what she writes, especially with regards to men and the violence. Like, I'm no snob about romance. You know, I love a romance as a genre, but each one of these that I pick up, it's just like I'm deflated about what it's telling to young women and what young women reading this book are learning to expect from men, which in Julia's case is anger and violence. It's why, you know, I have really strong feelings also about like dark romance and dark romantasy. I have a fully developed frontal lobe, as they say. I'm 30 now. Yeah, I turned 30. But, you know, people who are reading these books can be super young, like teenagers read this, and you know, while they're still developing, yeah. But will I continue to read these? Yes, I will, because I like making these videos and I like comparing adaptations and the books, and I like romance and I like Regency and I like Regency romance. So thank you for watching this mammoth of a video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to. I'm gonna let you go now. Thank you. Happy reading.